2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Solutions Info Show. Happy New Year. It's a new year. It's a new decade that brings new challenges, and we're here to help you if you're a caregiver and you're caring for someone who can't care for themselves, especially someone who has some form of dementia, like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, vascular dementia, frontal temporal lobe dementia. It doesn't really matter. The show is really focused on memory loss and the people that have it and the people that care for the people that have it, and what you can do about it, how you can make life a little easier. Your journey, and it is a journey, definitely is a hard journey. Caregiving is probably one of the hardest things that people ever have to face. And if you're a new caregiver or if you're a seasoned caregiver, you might learn some tricks along the way, but there are still challenges. And when the disease progresses, it always brings new challenges. And therefore, we continue to provide advice and help and anything that we can give to you, the family, unpaid family caregiver. We're going to do that, and we're continuing to do that on this program. So the show is going on 5 years this coming year, and I'm very excited to find out that we not only have increased our audience, we also have heard from many of you that like the new time slot. Our time slot is 6 to 7 p.m. now. It used to be 5 to 6, but you know, things change, and we do have a new time slot. And I'm hoping that you're here on this new time slot, we get the word out, and that you can join us every Tuesday live. We're here live from Boca Raton, Florida, every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. And so you want to mark that on your schedule, 6 to 7 p.m. So everybody's got new resolutions. A lot of people make them, a lot of people break them, but at least we can try. And what that means is that we have goals, and goals are good things. Even caregivers, it's good to have goals, because we always talk about caregivers taking care of themselves, not just the person that you're caring for. Very important to take care of yourself. So this past year, we've had a lot of ups and downs. The world is changing. Your life is changing if you're a caregiver, and we just passed the holidays, the end of the year holidays. So that means there's been a lot of stress, because with all the regular stress that caregiving brings on, add the holidays and all that it brings along with it. So we've probably had too much indulgence, too much overspending with gifts, too exhausting, too confusing, too overwhelming. If there's any TOO in your life, then you want to think about that, because if there's too much of anything, it's probably time to think about going back to moderation. And that can be a goal for caregivers. You know, it's okay if you don't do it right the first time and you say, oh, I messed up. It's okay. Every day is a new day. And so we want to get back to moderation, and we want to get back to simplifying. And I've talked to a lot of people this last couple months going into the end of the year and now into the new year. And I hear a common theme, and it's about simplifying our life, getting our lives organized, getting them in order. And that's something that we can all strive for. And it's not going to happen instantly. We have to make plans for it. And the big thing is to be a little bit motivated every single day to do something to advance in that goal. And so even if it's a baby step, you're advancing. So, you know, don't beat yourself up. It's a new year, a new decade, and we're all going to be in this together to help you, the caregiver, with expertise from wonderful professionals that we have on this program every single week. So not only is the show providing that information, it also provides resource materials. And you'll see about halfway through, about the 5:30 mark, we're going to be giving away a book. It's called the 36-Hour Day Book. And it's a wonderful resource for caregivers, absolutely free. And it's provided by our sponsor. So you don't want to miss that, because there's a special phone number. You'll call in and get your free book. So one of the things that I think is important is thinking about going forward and simplifying our lives. I came across actually a little poem, and it's called Heart Gifts. And we give from the heart, and the people that are caregivers, you know, have a heart for what they do. And people that work in the community, that work in the industry, that work in the field of helping people with dementia, helping caregivers to help care for those people, they all have a heart. They have a heart for what they do. And, of course, this is only January, and February's coming up real quick, and people are already seeing Valentine's decorations and candies and everything in the stores, and it's like, oh, no, here we go again. You know, we just finished Christmas and Hanukkah, and now we're flipping to Valentine's Day, and I actually saw Easter decorations already in a store. So it's amazing how, you know, everybody's trying to push us and to go faster and to do more. But take a breath. It's okay. I'd like to read this little poem to you. It's called Heart Gifts. It was actually written by Helen Steiner Rice many, many years ago, and I think it still rings true today. And I thought about caregivers when I saw this. It's not the things that can be bought that are life's richest treasure. It's just the little heart gifts that money cannot measure. A cheerful smile, a friendly word, a sympathetic nod are priceless little treasures from the storehouse of our God. They are the things that can't be bought with silver or with gold, for thoughtfulness and kindness and love are never sold. They are the priceless things in life for which no one can pay, and the giver finds rich recompense in giving them away. So let that be one of your goals, is to give heart gifts. And if you know a caregiver, and you might not be a caregiver yourself, the caregivers in your life, they would really, really appreciate one of those heart gifts. A smile, a kind word, a nice deed. You don't have to go out and buy something for them. Just be there for them. So that can be all of our goals, is to give some more heart gifts this year than we did last year. And I think that would be really great. So today we have, starting off, a wonderful expert in elder law coming to talk with us, and there's going to be a lot of information to share starting off the new year, maybe some things that you need to do as part of that, getting yourself in order and getting your affairs in order. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we come back. We're going to have that special person. I can't wait for you to meet her. So we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Welcome back. My special guest today is an elder law attorney, and her name is Pamela Polani, and she's here with us. And hi, Pam, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
And you are not a stranger to this show,
No.
because you've actually been here once or twice before.
Yes.
And so welcome back. We always are very, very glad to have you.
I'm always very appreciative when you call me and ask me, so thank you.
Well, this is exciting because today we're going to be talking about a lot of things with Pam, and she is actually here first as a special honorary chairperson for a special event coming up in January. And I want to talk about that because I think that's very exciting, and I've known you a long time, and you're always involved in fundraising and advocacy and getting the word out and helping people and helping caregivers. So let's talk about the special event. It's called Brain Ball. Yay, Brain Ball 2020.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Our
exciting.
6th year of doing it.
Is it the 6th year?
It's the 6th year of doing Brain Bowl.
Okay, and now I was trying to think how long it's been, but it's been every year.
Every year for 6 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know what Brain Bowl is, just let us know. What is it?
So I am the founder, not just the chair. So I hate when people call me a chair because usually chair means that you're not really working the event. I really work this event.
Oh, no, we know. You are in there with your sleeves rolled up.
I am
and
definitely
you're
going for it. And I am the founder of the event of really, which started as, because I also was the founder of the Walk to End Alzheimer's for Alzheimer's Association in Boca. And originally when we came up with this idea for the luncheon, we were trying to help promote the Boca Walk to End Alzheimer's for Alzheimer's Association. And it was supposed to feed completely just into that. But when I created the walk in Meisner for Alzheimer's Association, I realized the audience for that walk is a little different than what comes to a luncheon. And we really hit on something, like the amount of people who responded. And some people they don't want to go to a walk, even though it's a family event and things like that, which is maybe why they don't want to go. I don't know. But it's a family event. And the luncheon is very different. It's networking. It's for professionals, attorneys, doctors, financial wealth managers, real estate agents, anything of that sort, plus just people who in the community who really want to hear very interesting speakers talk about the cutting edge technology of Alzheimer's.
So that means that caregivers go to that too.
Oh, yes. So I would say probably about 1/3 of the people who come to the event are either in the field of caregiving or are caregivers themselves.
All right, so you have a wide, diverse audience
We
that
do.
come to Brain Ball.
We do.
And I've been to many of them. I don't know if I've
Yes.
made all 6, but it's
Last
very...
year was one of our best, I have to say.
That was when I was on a cruise.
Yeah, I know. And Mary Lou Henner came, and it was great. We're going back into basics, though, because it got so big, the luncheon. And like I said, it's not a walk. It's not made for everybody. And we want to go back. So we actually cutting off reservations at this point. We are not going to be taking any more individual ticket orders after January 25th.
Well, that's why I wanted you to come, because I wanted people to know about it. If you've never been to a Brain Ball in Boca Raton and you are missing out, and there's still time. So I want to talk about it.
And this is definitely the time that you want to get a ticket, because we're going to raise prices on January 15th. And then we're cutting out everything. Like, we're almost sold out, to be honest with you. We have a certain number that we want to get to this year, and we don't want it to be a zoo. We want this to be a really wonderful, very touching experience for every single person who attends.
Well, it always is.
It always is. And we have, I have to be honest, we have 2 of the most amazing keynote speakers that are coming, aside from a researcher. So Herzog Hospital in Israel is actually sponsoring a speaker to come from Israel who is doing cutting-edge care with Alzheimer's and dementia. And he's going to be speaking. Dr. Oded Mehran with Herzog Hospital is going to be speaking. And after he speaks, I have to say a huge thank you. Mwah, I love you, Connie Sosowski, with American Caregiving Youth, and American Association of Caregiving Youth, AACY. And she actually helped us find these 2 young men. I actually get really emotional just even talking about it. I saw them already on clips and things like that. These 2 young men had their grandmother, which is very common, you know this, come into their home, and she had Alzheimer's. They were very young, and the impact that it had on their mom, their dad, and themselves was huge.
Because they all lived together. They helped
They
take
all
care
lived
of Grandma.
together,
Well,
and they all and the children were very instrumental in taking care of Grandma, and also what happened to their family dynamics. You know, people go, "Oh, that's great, you're taking her." It changes
Sure.
everything.
Sure.
It's not just having one more person living in a house. You're talking about somebody who gets up in the middle of the night, and then the kids have to go to school the next day tired. This is not somebody who's quiet when they get up in the middle of the night. It causes a commotion, right? And it means also that, you know, friends don't come over to the house. Activities have to be cut because mom has to stay home with Grandma. She can't drive and take the kids everywhere. Dad has to financially sometimes support everybody so that they can do all this. It's just a lot of pressure. And that's just traditionally, I'm just saying, you know, and that's what this family, it could be the mom who's financially supporting and the dad who's staying home. But we hear all different types of variations.
Right.
But the end result is always the same. And how do you explain to children that it's not their fault? It wasn't their caregiving or lack thereof that caused Grandma to eventually die.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and die in a way that wasn't so easy, right?
It really leaves an impact. Matter of fact, I don't know if you know this, but Connie Sosowski was on this program last month.
Oh, really?
And she came on and we talked
love
about
her.
the Caregiving Youth,
Yes.
American Association for Caregiving Youth,
Yeah.
and we talked about the impact that children, how they're impacted, how they're affected when they are part of a caregiving family, and they're
Right.
expected to do things that typically, you know, a middle school age person would not be expected to do. And so we talked about that at great length, and I think it's awesome that now you are able to give an opportunity for these grown up now children
Right.
to talk about what it was like so they can speak from their heart and share, because it's one thing to hear it from the CEO of the organization and one thing to hear it from other professionals, but to hear it, you know, directly from that person who is affected, I know it's going to be very
Well, and not
touching
just
and
for-
emotional.
Right, and obviously not just for Alzheimer's, you know, and dementia and Parkinson's and things like that. But we have a major problem in our country because we do have a lot of children who are caregiving. Sometimes mom and dad aren't around for whatever reason, and their sole custodial, you know, parent is a grandparent. And we have a lot of different, you know, scenarios of how this works. But unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of children, elementary, middle school, high school children, giving up their lives to be caregivers.
Right.
And it really does make an impact. The schools are not understanding. And when the person who they're caregiving for dies, what they have found is that they're very isolated and they are not able to cope because they've literally pulled away from whatever, community connections they might have had because they had to give everything to, the parent or grandparent that was, unfortunately afflicted. And so we see the suicide rate, unfortunately, really high.
So you have a theme. Your theme this
Yeah.
year is
Caregiving through the ages.
through the ages. So you're bringing in
We're really
the
showing
youth
that this
and
is
showing
right.
as people go along in their life. It's
Right. Alzheimer's is not an old person's disease. You and I hear this a lot.
Yeah.
It really kind of starts bugging me after a while, I'll be honest with you. And I understand that people just don't understand, right? We still are not at a place where we have enough awareness of what Alzheimer's and dementia are that people can respond accordingly. But this is not an old person's disease. Alzheimer's starts in your late 20s. It has a huge incubation period. People just aren't aware of it. They don't often see the signs. The smarter you are, sometimes the better you are at hiding the signs. And so the diagnosis gets longer and longer, from where it was. But the problem is we know that this is not a disease that just impacts the person who has it. It's not cancer where you yourself go and get treatments and everybody supports you in a way, but nobody has to take care of you necessarily.
Right.
Alzheimer's involves so many caregivers.
the whole family.
The whole family. And the
And then
stigma
some.
of putting someone in an assisted living facility, unfortunately, still exists. And people go, oh, I would never do that to my mom. My mom always was, she was the best mom. I'll never, ever put her into an assisted living facility. And meanwhile, you're doing such a disservice sometimes. I'm not saying always, but sometimes it's such a disservice to the parent who you love because you're not a trained caregiver.
Disservice not to place
Yes,
them.
not to place them because you're not a trained caregiver.
Right. And they could be missing out on things that
Would stimulate them,
right.
would actually help them, would help keep them healthier and have better brain activity or whatever it might be.
So, being in this is the 6th year that you're putting on Brain Bowl. Besides the numbers, right? You've obviously been growing. You got to cap it off. It's actually held at the Boca West Country Club, which has a huge venue.
Well, we had last year,
right?
we had the
venue.
best attended event that Boca West Country Club has ever had for a luncheon. We
And why
had
do you
over
think-
1,100.
And why is that?
Oh, come on. Look where we live. This is a disease that impacts everyone. We are ground zero for Alzheimer's. Every person in this county should be terrified of the silver tsunami, which is what I call Alzheimer's. It is overwhelming us. Every person, whether you know someone or you are having a family member personally impacted or you're a taxpayer, we cannot stress enough that this is a disease that impacts all of us. When people don't have enough money for care, who do you think has to pay for that? It's the state of Florida, and we don't have those resources. Alzheimer's is the least funded major cause of death in our country, period. Period.
And it's getting worse.
And it's getting worse.
And so this really speaks to the importance and the people that are coming and telling other people and coming and wanting to know and just to get educated. So when it's all said and done, Pam, what do you hope to accomplish? What's the goal?
You know, the main goal is actually not to raise money. I know that's not what my beneficiary organizations want to hear, but for me, it's about awareness. I still don't think that most people understand what is dementia, how does that play into Alzheimer's, what it means, what is an assisted living facility, what is Alzheimer's Association, what is Alzheimer's Community Care, what is the FAU Memory and Wellness Center. These are our 3 major organizations dealing with Alzheimer's right now. We have the Marcus Institute, Neuro Institute as well, that is building, and we need to get more awareness about these things because when someone is faced with this type of diagnosis, it's overwhelming, not only because look what's going on with your, diagnostic abilities and things like that, right? Your cognitive abilities.
Absolutely.
It's an overwhelming thing to think about how am I going to afford someone, at least 5 people, really, to take care
It's
of
a team,
me.
a team
it has to-
effort.
right. And if you are on your own, and you don't have a wife, you don't have a husband, you don't have children, you don't have nieces, nephews, what is that going to mean for
Right.
you?
Right. You have to hire people
And
to
even
help.
in the best of families, the stress of caregiving is huge. I mean, I'm sure you've said this on your show 1,000 times. 70% of caregivers die before the person that they're caring for. Did you know that? I mean, that's horrifying.
It's gotten, the numbers gotten higher.
Higher?
Yeah,
Really?
in the year.
Have they
No,
said-
from we used to be.
from one year. But
yeah.
so now we're at 70%.
So I think again,
the stress on the heart and on the ability to handle it is and you don't know until you go through. I think one of the things I always tell people is, do me a favor before you make jokes. Oh, I forgot about it. It's Alzheimer's, or it's old timers or whatever. Go watch the 60 Minutes episode. Have you seen this?
yes, I have.
You know what I'm going to talk about. And it's amazing. This man who was a police officer in New York had his wife diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and they followed the couple for 10 years, I believe.
I think
okay?
so.
And at the very beginning, she was still speaking, and she still had some cognitive ability. And he said, I'll never put her, she's been a wonderful wife. I love her. I'll never put her into an assisted
Never
living
say
facility.
never.
Right? I think it was like maybe 4 years or 5. It wasn't that long. She declined so much, and he gained so much weight, and you could see the stress, literally, like how things had changed. And by year 6, I think he had to put her into an assisted living facility, and he realized that he probably should have done it a lot earlier.
Yeah, and that's the problem too. And then I think that's why it's important. And thank you for presenting Brain Bowl, for this awareness. I mean,
Right.
it is making some money, and proceeds go.
Oh yeah, well, so I'm very proud of this as well. I have to say, because this is the only organization, my nonprofit, that raises money for 3 other nonprofits that all deal with the same thing. I don't know anything else that's like this. It's like saying if breast cancer, was raising money for 3 different breast cancer foundations. Nobody does that, right? I've actually been very blessed that the 3 organizations work together and understand that this is the betterment of our community. So we actually raise the money for Alzheimer's Association, Alzheimer's Community Care, and the Ann and Lewis Green Memory Wellness Center located on FAU campus. And we're very proud that we do that, because it really helps understand that these 3 organizations work together.
Yeah.
They have to.
Well, we all need to pull together, and this
Yes.
is what is so wonderful about this event. So let's tell everybody when it is, how they can get that ticket still if they'd like to come. So there's the
I don't know if
flyer.
you can see it. January 31st is going to be a Friday, because we actually like to drink a little glass of champagne while we do this and enjoy our day. But it is Friday, January 31st at Boca West Country Club, 11 to 1:30. I would highly, highly suggest that if you want to go, you get your ticket today.
And how do they do that?
There's a website, and it's brainbowlevents.org, and BrainBowl events, events.org, brainbowlevents.org, and the tickets are $130.
Okay, so go to that website, pay, get your ticket.
Yeah, and if you are a professional and you need to get out of there quickly, I would also suggest that you get an exit pass. We are the only nonprofit event that I know of that does this. We actually sell exit passes because we're very aware that some people have to get back to work or pick up their children or get back to their loved one who they're
So they have to
caregiving.
pay to get out?
They got to pay to get out.
I love it. Pam,
yeah.
you never cease
I
to
think of
amaze
every,
me.
I think of every, because it is a fundraiser, right? And but the idea is that we've had, at any place that you go, if you have, 1,000 people leaving at the same time, you're not going to get your car out of LA quickly. So
And you're going to make a lot of money.
So we suggest you get
To
an exit
boot.
pass, and we only sell limited ones to make this work well. And I think we've already sold the majority of them. So again, if this is something that you think you would like to attend and you want to have somebody go with you, get your tickets today, get an exit pass. And we also do offer a lower price for the door prize tickets that you can pay. If you pay online before the event, the price is lower. If you're paying on the day of, and we've got great, we work hard. We really do. We got great prizes.
You always have
Yeah.
fabulous prizes.
We do.
It's a wonderful lunch provided by Boca West Country Club.
Yes.
So,
it's all top, lovely. No matter what, you're going to learn something. You're going to feel moved. You're going to do something for the community, which will help you in the end as well, and help all of us. right?
And
By
go
pulling
to one
together.
of the best attended
And
events
I have to
in
say,
Boca in
everybody
January.
gets dressed. It's we've got Mayor Scott Singer coming, and Vice Mayor of the county and County Commissioner Bob Weinroth coming. You get to hobnob with the best of the people, but you also get to meet people who are caregivers.
And I think that's
And
important.
really
That's your
important.
connection, right?
Right.
So professionals connect, caregivers connect with professionals who
So
are
you'll be
there
able to
who
meet
can.
people who you might not really ever get to meet.
That's right, and people who can help them. I
Right.
mean,
And
sometimes
really-
it's very serendipitous, and which is wonderful. I love
Right,
that.
right.
So
I love when I hear people say, I'm a connector.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And I think that's my reputation at this point, is that I like to connect people. And this event is really about making those connections.
Okay, so you heard it. Get your ticket for Friday, January 31st, the
Right.
Brain Bowl. Say that 3 times
I know,
fast. The Brain Bowl in Boca.
Yes.
Right?
Boca Brain Bowl.
Uh-huh.
The website is brainbowlevents.org. And we would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, please feel free to call my office, 561-496-4222.
Wonderful.
561-496-4222.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Pam Polani about her other job, the one that pays her for what she does.
My husband will be very happy
to help caregivers.
to hear that I'm
and-
going to talk about my real profession.
So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Welcome back. At this time, I'd like to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care Communities. Arden Courts is a leader when it comes to memory care, helping people that have memory loss. They have 10 locations here in Florida and about 50 scattered across the United States. So Arden Courts is a great resource. Not only are they a memory care assisted living for people with dementia, and dementia care is all they do, they also have support groups and seminars and want to help the family caregiver. So one of the things that they'd like to do for you today, just because you're watching this program, is give you this book. It's called The 36-Hour Day. Some people call it the Bible of Caregiving because it is such a wonderful resource. This book is written by Dr. Peter Rabins, who was actually on our show in November this past year. And he goes all over the country giving talks, even though he just retired from his work for 30-plus years as a neuropsychologist. And he wrote this book, and it's always being updated. And it's a great resource for you, and it's free. So all you have to do is call the toll-free number, 888-478-2410. Tell them that you heard about this offer on the Caregiver Solution Info Show, and they'll be happy to get your name and address and make sure that the book comes directly to your home. Again, do not delay. get it. It's an awesome book. I know it's hard to read when you're caregiving, but you don't have to read it from cover to cover. You can pick and choose the topics or chapters that might be something that you identify with, that particular week. So it's a great thing to have. 888-478-2410. Call them and get this book. You won't be sorry. So my guest today is Pamela Polani. Pamela is an elder law attorney with offices here in Boca and in Delray Beach.
Yes.
And I'm glad that you're back with
Thank
us to kick us off with the new year.
Me too.
Because you have so much energy and so much passion and compassion when it comes to helping people. So we talked about the Brain Bowl coming up the end of the month, that you are honorary.
January 31st.
Yep, you're honorary chair, and before that you were, chair, so I'm glad that you're delegating a little bit.
Tried.
Let's talk about your real job. I call it your real job, the one that you get paid for, and that is as an elder law attorney. And you've been in the business about how long now?
If I give that away, they'll know exactly how old I am. It's okay. I've actually been licensed in the state of Florida since 1994.
Okay, so this is something near and dear to your heart,
Right.
And obviously it's something very needed. And in all of the years that you've been helping families and helping especially caregivers,
Right.
What has changed, if anything? Any
Well,
theme or anything?
You know what has changed. Our population in South Florida, and I was raised here, so I'm very well aware of it. The demographics has changed dramatically. We've always been known for having a senior population in South Florida, but that has really boomed. So as our life expectancy has changed, so unfortunately have some of the issues that come up with that. And, if people can cause trouble, they will. And unfortunately, I hear from a lot of clients on the estate planning side of my practice, oh no, my children always will get along, everything gets along, everything's going to be fine. When money and, control are in play, things change, people change. And that's just an unfortunate side effect of my business. So when I started practicing estate planning and things like that, oh gosh, about 15 years ago, okay? Guardianship really wasn't the concern. That was not so much what people were thinking of.
People initially were coming for powers of attorney.
Right, or they would say, listen, I just want you to draw up a simple will. I want my kids and husband to get everything. What can you do for me, right? And we would explain to them what the process of probate is and all that. The idea of guardianship and undue influence and fraud, these were not really the issues. We have the biggest population of seniors in the country. We also have the biggest, unfortunately, statistic of fraud.
Which is very scary, right? And you didn't used to hear about this kind of stuff 20-some years ago.
Well, you heard of it, but it wasn't as much of it as you are hearing now.
Right. And I think talking about it also, it's almost like Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's has always existed.
Right.
When after Dr. Alzheimer's actually,
it's so funny. I just told somebody that. I just said, they were like, where did the word Alzheimer's come out? I'm like, no, it's named after the doctor actually who first diagnosed and said, this is a disease.
Right. He was the one that actually opened up the brain, and it was this disease was named after him. So
but you know what? Years ago, we wouldn't say to Alzheimer's. We'd say, oh, grandma's senile.
Yeah.
And if you say someone is senile now, somebody will literally go, nope, we don't use that word anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's 100 different types of dementia, and some of them are controllable.
Right.
Some of them are actually treatable. Some of them are not. Alzheimer's just being the most common form of dementia. But the idea is also, it's just how our population has changed as well, as when people move here, they now live further and further away from their loved ones and their friends. And so we have, unfortunately, I think the statistic is most people over 65, their closest relative is over 200 miles away. So it's how we have evolved as a country that is actually kind of worrisome. Because what has happened is that we're not only living longer, but we're living away from what I would call our care system, right?
I think technology might play a part in that too, because in the good old days, you'd have to get in the car and drive down to Florida to see mom and dad or grandma and grandpa. But,
So we have an illusion of connectivity that we don't have. And the problem with Alzheimer's and dementia, it doesn't matter how much you love grandma and how often you Facebook her or tweet to her or text her. She's going to need that physical help to help her deal with her day-to-day life. And her day-to-day life is not going to be getting up at 7, getting dressed and doing things quickly. She might be a wanderer in the middle of the night. She's going to need somebody who's going to be there all night long. She's going to need somebody who can handle bath time because she may not be able to do those things.
And it's not safe.
And it's not safe, right? So it's not a matter of, well, she's pretty okay to be on her own, I think, at night. No. If she's not okay to be on her own in the day, she's certainly not okay at night. So it's also greed. You know, we live in a community, unfortunately, where people want to keep money. So grandma's going to die anyway. Do we really have to pay for top care for her? Couldn't we just have the neighbor who's next door come and watch her?
And this is what kids are thinking, right?
Yeah, and you know, and my job is to say no. Your father created a trust for your mom, and that trust, you know, explicitly says the funds are to be used for your mother for her best care, because he knew that she already had signs of dementia.
And I see that, the greed, and I've actually heard it from adult children's mouths that they don't want to spend their inheritance on their parents. And, you know,
And it's not your money.
it's not.
It's not.
It's theirs.
It's your mother's money, or it's your father's money, or
They
whoever
worked
else it
their
is.
whole life
right? So that they could be cared for.
And right, to have that.
Right.
And so when you talk about that greed, and we know it's theirs,
It's also it's expectations, right? They have unreasonable expectations. You know, your parents loved you all your life. I'm so sorry to tell you, you don't get anything. I don't care what Aunt Velma promised you. You know, if she uses every dime for her care, that is what that money was intended for. It was not intended to take care of you.
it's a false entitlement.
But and also on the other side, parents who sit there and say, no, 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 I want to save as much money as I can for my children. With all due respect, you know, you need to take care of yourself before you can ever take care of someone else.
That's right.
And you deserve every penny you've earned. As much as you love your children, if you've given them that unconditional love, hopefully they have 2 legs to stand on.
Hopefully
That's
you've
the
raised
best.
them the right way where they
Right.
can go out and support themselves. And it would be different if someone obviously has a disabled child, and I know you help in those
Yes.
circumstances to set those kinds of things
Right.
up. But the greed, which parlays back to what we said a minute ago about the fraud, right?
Yes.
So when we talk about Alzheimer's now, so many people are so much more educated about it over the last 10, 20 years that
Yes
we're
and no.
talking. I
Yeah.
mean, there's
Right.
always new
There's a
people
lot more
coming along,
awareness.
right? There's a lot more awareness. I think it's
I would like
started-
to say people like you and I are the reason why People Magazine now has ads about Alzheimer's Association in it, where, literally 5 years ago it didn't. We've done a really good job of trying to get people to be aware and educate. I give, lectures all the time for no charge. I do not charge for my consultations. And I sit them down and I say, look, I know you called me and you said you want a simple will. But let's really talk about what that means. And I don't charge for this. I try to really educate people what they're going to need as they get older,
And that's
to
the-
protect them legally.
And that's the key, too, is the education. Because if we talk about these things, just like we've talked about Alzheimer's, and we never stop talking about it, because there's always
Always new things going on.
New things going on. A new case happens, every so minutes, and many minutes that
And I
someone's
tell people-
diagnosed.
right. I tell people all the time, I have a case going on right now. It's horrific. A Holocaust survivor, someone who has survived such atrocities, but unfortunately doesn't, trust a lot of people, and
Sure.
she's estranged from her family. Okay, and her closest relative is in Texas. She lives unfortunately in Deerfield. Right. She went into a bank, became friendly with a bank teller, and this is, by the way, also a sign of dementia where you trust people who maybe you shouldn't. Okay, and the bank teller convinced her to change the deed of her homestead property to her name,
Wow.
saying that she would safekeeping it for the children. She would safekeep it for who don't speak to the mom anymore. Okay,
And this person who has dementia, like you say, they're very vulnerable.
Right.
So the more that we're talking about the greed and the possible fraud,
Right.
I think that's going to also maybe open up some people's eyes to be more aware of it. Because if you're aware of it, then you can spot it easier. And you can say, gee, that doesn't seem quite right. That neighbor who's doing this, maybe they're a little too involved, or maybe
Right.
they're, there's something a little shady about
going
this.
on, right? And the problem is that we don't live in the 1950s anymore, where neighbors don't know neighbors. I would suggest everybody go next door, meet your neighbor. They might be the most important person in your life for the next 10 years, and really find out, make that system. It breaks my heart when people come to me and they say, I don't have a mom, I don't have a dad, I don't have a spouse, I don't have children, I don't have any connections.
They're all alone.
They're all alone. And what is going to happen? And they've not put any kind of protective layers around themselves. We are, a community. People ask me, why do I do so many things, different charity events and whatnot, and advocacy? Because it's to remind people unity is in that word. Community means unity. And we, as one, we can stand together. But if you're on your own, I don't know sometimes what is going to happen. And that's really where I try to advocate to people. Some planning, some estate planning is very helpful.
That's right. Well, we're going to take our last break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask Pam to share with you what should be your plan for 2020. So we'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
My guest today is Pamela Polani, elder law attorney here in Boca with offices in Boca and Delray Beach. And she is a fan of Caregiver Solutions Info. And she's been on the show a couple times. And starting the year off, the new year, as an elder law attorney, talking to people in general or caregivers who are caring for someone, what should they be doing? What should be some of their goals for 2020 that they should actually be planning for?
So I'd really say that my experience as an attorney and also as a advocate, right? My advice would not be necessarily just even legal. It would be more of you need to make connections. When you withdraw from the community and you're not involved, you're not going to know the people or you're not going to have built the relationships that you're going to need. And everybody is going to need. So sometimes, and I'm just going to give the example, every year my kids and I would go to Christmas in the mall and we help families who are unfortunately economically underprivileged have a better Christmas. And my kids every year groan about going, but by the end they have loved the experience. And I explain to them, sometimes you're the giver and sometimes you're the recipient. That's how life works. You need to build those connections now. So maybe now you'll be the giver. But at some point, you will be receiving that. We all need one another. It is truly a community that cares. We're blessed in that instance. Make those connections. Build your circle. Have a trusted legal advisor, a trusted financial advisor, a good doctor, right?
Yeah.
A good friend, right? And really build your inner circle so that when you need it, it'll be there for you. Because everything else said and done, if no one stands for you when you need it, where's the quality of your life? To me, that is truly the tragedy of life when no one is going to stand for you.
Wow.
So
Wow, that was beautiful what you said,
Oh,
and
thank you.
actually unexpected.
See? She thought I was going to promote like legal documents and things
Well,
like that.
make sure you have your legal
But
documents in
But
order.
that's a given. I mean, there's a lot of things you have to do. Get that colonoscopy, right? All those things that you always hear. But really, I think it's get off Facebook, have that one-on-one, build those connections, and I think you'll never regret it. Even though some relationships over time might change or disappoint or whatever, you're still going to need that inner circle to really not only enjoy your life, but to live your life.
Well, it makes perfect sense. It really does when you think about it. But some people don't think about it. And I'm
Right.
so glad that you said that. Before I introduced you tonight on the show, I read a poem called Heart Gifts.
Right.
And it was so funny because what you just said about taking your children to the mall and they're the givers, but if they can be the recipients, and how they felt good about their deed after
Right.
the fact, just spoke in the actual poem about basically, in other words, that you're going to get back more than you give.
Always.
Yeah. And I think that that is great advice, because I think a lot of caregivers do wait too long to reach out. So if you start now and build that circle or that team, and have those people in your corner, so when you need them, because I have seen, and you have too, people that have
Fatigue.
waited until the last minute and then been so overwhelmed, they're in a crisis mode.
Right.
They don't know who to turn to.
And sometimes then when you're in crisis mode, we as the professionals really can't help you the way we could had you come to us earlier. That's always heartbreaking to me. When someone calls me and says, my mom's in hospice, can you meet with her? She really wants to do legal documents. And I'm like, maybe not. Because if they're under the influence of some type of, pain management or whatnot, they can't sign documents. They're not going to understand them.
They don't have the
They don't have that ability,
wherewithal to
right, to do that.
understand. Yeah.
And as an attorney with integrity, I would never recommend it. And the problem, of course, is waiting too long also means that you feel isolated. We never want anyone in our community to ever feel alone. We are a very embracing community. I know Boca has this reputation of having a lot of not nice people sometimes in it. And I always laugh because I go, well, you're just hanging around the wrong people.
There's people not nice in every community, right?
But you know what? Build that trust with with an attorney. There are so many great attorneys out there, especially in my field. I'm friends with a lot of them. There's no competition because the work is overwhelming for all of us. And the bottom line is, it is, again, something you need to do. Build those connections. Get that trusted financial advisor, that trusted friend who has a lot of information. Make those connections, and you'll make sure that your life will be, hopefully enhanced by that.
Yeah, and to that point, I was just so thrilled. Before the new year, I received a phone call from a lady that I met when I was doing an advocacy trip to Tallahassee with Alzheimer's Community Care to go up to rally the legislature for funds and things like that. And we stayed in touch. And she called me not too long ago for advice. And, I knew it took a lot for her to reach out, because a caregiver sometimes, are
They don't want to admit. Right,
yeah,
and
that I need help, or that they don't want to bother people or whatever. And I was so glad that she called and she asked my advice and my opinion on a very important issue. And we talked for a little while, and I was so happy that I could help her. And she was so happy to get...
I don't think most people realize, when people call me for help, you're not only helping me professionally, you're helping me personally. That I became an attorney to help others.
That's right.
That was the whole point.
Right. So we kept that connection, and now she was able to feel comfortable to reach out and call me when it came to a big decision she had to make. So
it's a win-win.
It is. And you're going to give, you're going to get, and I love what you said. So if someone is listening and they would like to get more information from you on any of these topics, how can they contact you?
So I have a website that I actually blog on called www.Boca del Rey Attorney at Law. I also have an office phone number, 561-496-4222, 561-496-4222. You can also email me, Pamela at lawphp.com, as in Pamela Heiger Polani. So Pamela at lawphp.com. And we want to hear from you. If you have something that you want me to speak at, whatever it might be, let me know.
All right. Well, thank you for coming today
you.
and sharing.
Happy 2020.
And Happy New Year. And thank you all for tuning in today. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Decade. We'll be back with more every Tuesday, 6 to 7 p.m. In the meantime, don't forget, give somebody a hug because they need it and so do you. So you take care and we'll see you next time.
I love that.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions.